Let's see, how would I live the rest of my life? Well, I suppose with family and friends.
Travel as much as I could, and then after that, I would like to finish out my days at home.
If I had the option and choice, most definitely I would do my best to spend it with my family.
Probably at home with family and friends.
Spend time with my family, make amends.
My preference would be at home with my wife there and my family.
Well, I'd like to spend it with my family, at home.
Extensive studies indicate that approximately 80% of Americans say they would prefer to die at home, if at all possible. Despite this, 60% of Americans die in acute care hospital settings, 20% in nursing homes, and only 20% die at home. Clearly, 80% of the patients that wanted to are not dying at home. Not long ago, dying of an illness suddenly and unexpectedly was the norm. Today's life-saving medical technologies have created a new normal. In some cases, however, these advancements have blurred the line between saving a life and prolonging dying. Pursuing surgeries, chemotherapy, radiation, and other aggressive medical procedures is usually done in hope of extending one's life. However, fighting a terminal condition at all costs can mean literally living with death. Today, families are leaning toward patients' wishes for quality of life options. It's a decision not easily made, but Hospice El Paso can offer a comforting alternative.
Doctors and nurses were all taught how to be curative, how to take the patient who's sick and restore them to the state they were in before they got sick. But there comes a time in everyone's life when that's not possible anymore.
Hospital patients hooked up to the machines. It's very hard for the family. It's very traumatic.
Sometimes that aggressive treatment that we want so badly to cure our disease, it doesn't work. You may be tired of the side effects. You may be tired of missing out on time with your family or doing whatever it is you want to do.
We don't want this adventure to end. We want it to keep going.
If you have a terminal condition, that is very devastating. We are better equipped to help the person to have a beautiful death.
Here in El Paso, many people do not want to talk about death because of the culture.
In our society and in our culture, when we think about a finite number of days or weeks or months to live, it can make us a little uncomfortable.
People are more likely to talk about sex with their teenagers than they're going to talk about end of life with their aging parents.
Don't tell my mother, don't tell my father, don't tell my child. You've got to start planning for the end. Hospice allows the patient to make some choices. How do you want to die?
Hospice is a concept that began in England under Dom Cicely Saunders, and it came over to the United States actually as a test in 1978, but it became a Medicare certified program in 1982.
Hospice is a philosophy of caring.
Hospice is care and support, not just for the patient, it's also care and support for the entire family.
Hospice is a program that can help you process your last stage in your life.
Hospice is care that is provided to a patient that has received a terminal diagnosis of 6 months or less, so that they can have a comfortable, peaceful death.
It's a great support system for the families.
It's guidance that you never knew was there, and it's love that you never knew you could receive at the end of your life.
Hospice care is the safety net. 24/7, we're on call for the patients and their families to call for anything, any concerns, any fears, any questions.
We provide pain management, we provide equipment, we provide medications.
We assist with their anxiety, we assist with their nutrition, with their skin care, help with their bathing, we provide hospital bed, wheelchair, walker, etc.
We provide that quality of life for people.
We provide the spiritual support, the emotional support, guiding them through this time that is so difficult.
You have a nurse, then that nurse has a doctor. You have answers, you have support, you have a social worker, you have a chaplain. You get a CNA, and that CNA is someone who comes out to your home and bathes you and lathers you in lotion and just loves on you.
We help families make the right decision. If a patient is saying they're tired, they don't want to continue some sort of aggressive treatment, we help the families understand where their loved one is coming from.
We make visits out to the patient's homes and educate the patient and the family on the dying process.
There's a lot of teaching that goes on with our patients. And we train family members how to take care of their loved ones at their home.
Here at Hospice El Paso, we are not seeking any aggressive treatments, doing any lab work, we're not running any scans, we're just allowing the disease process to run its course, keeping the patient or their loved one comfortable at home.
Hospice El Paso volunteers are the heart of hospice. They provide companionship, they provide a break for families when they need to get out of the house. They provide anything that's going to improve our patient and our family's quality of life. The memory repair program is amazing. We get a favorite shirt or a favorite blanket. Our volunteers take that material and sew it on to a little teddy bear. Once it's finished, we present it to that patient's loved ones.
We are here to help you walk that journey in your life. And I use the word, I'm here to sojourn with you. Estoy aquí para estar junto contigo en este proceso. I call it a sense of joy, going through that process with the patient.
We're here to provide equipment, we're here to provide medication, we're here to provide support so that you can keep living your life and doing as much as possible until the very end. We provide relief.
I was looking for an apartment before I bought my house. They ask you, where do you work? And I said, I work for hospice. And the guy said, oh, you kill people.
There is a misconception that hospice uses morphine or any narcotic to try and speed up the death process.
And that is so far from true for those who understand how to use that medication. In fact, the good use of morphine enhances life. We want to keep them as comfortable as possible and as functional as possible. If you are in pain, that's not quality of life. You're not going to be able to move around. You're not going to be able to do things that provide some meaning and joy to you.
People think hospice is just for old people. When I say no, it could be for a baby, to a teenager, to an older person.
Hospice is not just for people with terminal diseases. It's also for people who might have some other sort of physical injury that medicine is not going to be able to fix. The doctors won't be able to return that person back to their previous state.
Hospice should be called in as soon as it's determined that the patient has a terminal diagnosis.
Unfortunately, a lot of people that come into hospice come in at the tail end when they have less than a month to live. How can you bring closure to everything you need to bring closure in 30 days? It would be better if they came in 6 months before they passed away. That way they're still coherent, they're still responsive, they can do their wills, they can call relatives that they fought with years ago and they haven't talked to. They can bring closure to their lives.
I encourage people to reach out to hospice sooner. Sometimes it's like their life continues or extends itself because they're getting this care that they've never gotten before. And it just relieves so much pressure for each and every person in the family, including the patient.
I have had patients there for almost a year, sometimes a little more.
If I got a terminal diagnosis, I would want to call hospice early. People tend to have much greater quality of life. They spend those last months or whatever they have with their families and enjoying life and bonding with the people they love and doing things they love instead of going to doctor visits and taking medication that has side effects.
My mother passed away in January. She had been suffering from dementia. In retrospect, I wish we had called earlier. It would have made her last few months more comfortable instead of just her last month.
I always thought that
Hospice was somewhere that you took your loved one to a facility.
Hospice is not a place. It's a specialized type of care that's provided for patients and their loved ones wherever they live, whether it be a nursing home, an assisted living facility, or even a foster home. Wherever the patient lives is where they receive hospice care services.
I have seen patients at the rescue mission. People die no matter where they're at, and that's the reality of what we live in.
There's nothing like being able to keep your loved one at home with you. Of course, it was hard. It's never easy, but it was peaceful.
The quality of care and comfort is going to be equally the same at any facility.
Should symptoms become too difficult to manage at home, our exceptional freestanding inpatient unit, the Center for Compassionate Care, is always available. This facility provides round-the-clock specialized care beyond what can be provided in a home setting. Staffed by our professional interdisciplinary team, its main purpose is to manage pain and other symptoms while doing everything possible to enhance not only the patient's time remaining, but also the families. The facility gives a warm, home-like atmosphere with rooms providing a quiet, comforting, and stress-free environment. There is no age limit or visiting restrictions, and pets are welcome.
Having been a part of the staff at Hospice El Paso, I can say truly that the difference is that it's a true calling. The workers, the social workers, the chaplain, the nurses, it's not just a 9-to-5 job. They go out to provide comfort, compassion, and hope.
This patient came into our services and she began to disclose that her only wish was to be married at the church. So what we started doing as a team, the nurse, the chaplain, myself, is getting everything in place for her to go and buy her dress. The chaplain had to go to the church and arrange the ceremony. The volunteers were doing her nails, were doing her makeup, her hair. So we were able to get her the ceremony at the church with all her family. Now she has that peace within her that her wish was granted.
I had a patient that was very young, and he had a very, very serious medical condition. The doctors, told him you're not going to survive for a very long time. And I was talking to his sisters, and they were terrified. We know from what the doctors have indicated that he has a medical condition, and it's going to take his life. And he is very sick, but that's why you have a program like Hospice. We'll come in and we'll give medication and we'll give, the support to keep him as comfortable as possible. It still gets me so emotional to see, those three sisters that were so horrified sitting at bedside. One was holding his hand. The other one was stroking his hair. The mama talking to him. It was such a beautiful thing to see where they understood that he was passing, but they were at peace, and he was not suffering. That's what hospice is all about.
This little boy that was 8 years old said, well, if I were to grow up, I would have been a policeman. So I worked with a social worker. Together we got in touch with the police department, and this little boy was made policeman for a day. He got to ride in the squad car. He got to call in the calls. He even got to ride in the helicopter, which they normally don't do. I had visited him on the day that he died, and when I said, I'm here, he gave me a thumbs up, and he died.
One of the things that is really powerful in this ministry is what we call a time for closure. This is an opportunity that we give families and friends to tell the person who's dying what they have meant to you. It's time to address them like you maybe have never addressed them before. I went to go visit a family who the father, the patriarch of the family, was passing away. Everybody shared their story, and then they told me about the youngest son who considered himself the black sheep of the family. He had fought with his parents all his life, especially his dad, who was the patient, So once the son came in and he realized that's what he was doing, he just got down on his knees in front of that hospital bed, raised his hands, and asked his father to forgive him. Crying, pleading with his father, apologizing for the life that he had led, going astray and not following his advice, not being the man that he was raised to be. And the father just said, I forgave you a long time ago. And you are my son, I love you. And with that, he just jumped on the bed, hugged his father. The rest of the family hugged, everybody just created a group hug. That's something you can't ignore.
Hospice care is a benefit provided at no cost to eligible Medicare and Medicaid beneficiaries. Most insurance companies will pay for hospice care. Receiving hospice care does not necessarily mean death is imminent. The 6-month prognosis is simply a Medicare and Medicaid guideline and may be continued as long as the patient continues to decline. Although there is no charge for hospice care, if you are on Medicare or Medicaid, there are El Pasoans who do not qualify. Hospice El Paso is a non-profit organization, and therefore our mission is to take all El Pasoans, regardless of their age or their ability to pay. At any time, regardless of the reason, you have the right to revoke hospice services.
Sometimes families don't know how to move forward when they are notified that their loved one is going to be dying.
I think the hardest thing that I've seen is that a lot of people don't talk to family. They don't talk to each other and tell each other, you know, if something happens to me, this is what I want. And I'm not just talking about hospice. I work in the ICU, and I see it there too, where we're standing outside asking the family, what do you want us to do? And they look at each other and say, I don't know.
One of the most loving things that you can do for your family is to tell them what your wishes are. At the very least, have that conversation with your families. Make sure they know. But one step further would be to have your advance directives.
Yeah, an advance directive is something in writing that tells your loved ones or your next of kin what your wishes are if you become incapacitated, if you can no longer state your wishes.
It goes a lot smoother when I walk in and people say, well, this is what he told me he wants, so I'm gonna honor his wishes. They feel relief. They feel relief. There's no guilt. They know that they did what that person wanted.
Both my parents made their wishes specifically known and made me promise that I would carry out those directives.
It is your right to choose your hospice provider. Don't let anybody tell you which hospice you should have. You have the right to make your own decision.
It was our choice, the family's choice, to go with Hospice El Paso. And I'm very glad that we did. They helped our family tremendously.
One of the unique things about Hospice El Paso is that they're a community-based nonprofit organization. That means that they never turn away a potential patient because of their inability to pay or the complexity of their disease process.
We deal with people from all walks of life, whether or not they have insurance. It doesn't make any difference.
What impresses me most about hospice is that it's not about the bottom line. It's about serving the community and serving the families and the patients, serving everyone regardless of their financial situation. They don't turn anybody down.
Once people are aware of the kind of support that's available to them, not only the support of the team, but also the support of having the medications and supplies paid for and delivered to them, and that they can get bereavement services for 13 months after death, it's the most amazing program ever.
At Hospice El Paso, they are willing to accept patients who have complicated disease processes that can challenge their teams and challenge resources. That's the reason why it's so important for this community to continue to support the mission of Hospice El Paso.
Hospice is a very beautiful experience, very caring, very supportive, very empathetic. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want to be surrounded by love in the last moments here on earth?